All right, and we should be live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on June 29th. Let me pull up the live stream. Let me know, Dave, if you can find the stream and access it okay.
It says waiting for Alex Kozora. Oh, there it is. I see
Good.
it. I see
All
it.
right. Welcome back, everybody. As always, Dave Bryan and myself here for the next hour, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as we are every Monday answering any Steelers questions on your mind. So please leave them in the chat below. Leave a like on this video if you could as well. And Dave, I know you've been posting them on the podcast too, where people listen to the podcast at. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to everybody in the chat already. Who do we have in here? We got Mutated Genome. We got Steeler Fan 1933. Looks like a new name there. ODG Dorkman. First time making a stream. Samantha's back in here. Hello, Samantha. Solar Verse 6. So we got a handful in there
Yep.
already.
Thank you guys very much. Just a heads up, as we did on last Monday's live stream, in about a half hour, around 7:30, we will do a James Conner book giveaway. His book, Fear is a Choice. We'll have a Steelers trivia question. First one to answer it gets the book. The winner last week has already received the book, or has been sent out at least. So happy to have you guys here in the chat and hopefully winning James Conner's book.
And special thanks to his publisher and all as well too. And obviously, if you don't win one, these next couple weeks here, please consider buying one wherever you buy books at online. It's a great book. I have a copy of it here, and a couple of our staff members have been sent out a couple copies as well.
Yeah, HarperCollins, the publisher there. So thanks to them for giving us a couple copies of the book to give away. Steve, AJC, Chad, thank you so much for being here again. You guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat below. Dave, you've been working on, and I'll scroll to the top here, Anthony McFarland pass protection. I've been keeping up with it. I know there aren't a ton examples of it, but what have you learned so far on McFarland and Pass Pro?
I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast, Annie. I think I mentioned it to you in passing sometime, but there are a couple of Easter eggs in here. Obviously with a guy of his size and knowing the ankle injury that he played through and kind of his role in that Maryland offense, especially last season, I didn't think we would find too many pass protection reps in there. And B, I was kind of afraid of what I would find there. Overall, I have been impressed so far. More so with the effort than kind of technique. And that's kind of to be expected with such a young. I mean, remember this kid was only 2 seasons there at Maryland,
Right.
there and like I said, played a good portion of the 2019 season with that ankle injury, which by the way caused him to miss the Indiana game, which was in this set of 3 games that I profiled for this third phase of this series here. But I think as you look through this, Alex, you'll see some good effort. And, even starting with this first one up top here, he gets that linebacker and he drives that, at least carries that linebacker out of the pocket initially. Now he does eventually get beat to the outside there, and the quarterback gets hit, and unfortunately that hit knocked the quarterback out of the game there. But I thought for the most part he did his part there. He drove the linebacker coming up the middle away and outside of the pocket, and I mean you can look at that how that stacked at the line. You can obviously tell that the blitz is coming there. He identified what looks like the right guy on the play, and once again, he didn't, he did get beat, to the outside after initially stumping the guy there. But I like the effort there, and I think one common theme so far, the narrative, if you will, in the 3 parts of this series so far, which have really profiled, I guess it would be like 8 games in total. The effort's there and the willingness is there.
Right.
And there is some technique issues. We see him at times just lower his head, and that's not good, and not eating up grass before getting there. But those kind of things can kind of be taught there. If you give give me a player that has the want to and the willingness, especially with someone his size, you could probably work with that. So far so good. We'll see what it looks like in these final 3 games.
Yeah, I think 1-2 is the foundation and a must for anyone before you even start talking about technique. And that leads ourselves into the first question of the day. It's also a super chat from Mutated Genome. Thank you for the super chat saying, just chipping in. He asks, looks like McFarland is a willing pass protector, but he seems to just get in the way of the rusher. Can he learn to be more aggressive? Dave, you've been doing the breakdown. What do you think about that?
Look, I think you see, man. He scroll all the way to the bottom down there, Alex, and
The last one.
Right, look at him
Okay.
take on that defensive tackle. That defensive tackle uses a nice push pull, I think, on that left guard there, and easily gets past him. Now, even if McFarland's not there, will that defensive tackle get to the quarterback in time? Probably not. But I mean, look, he's got low man wins, right? And Lord knows McFarland's low. He actually gets up underneath that defensive tackle and really kind of stands him up a little bit there. So I guess to answer the question, is there a way to can he learn to be more aggressive in this? I don't think is his issue. I think his overall issue is kind of technique overall there. And look, I mean, he's a smallish guy. You're going to get probably a lot of cut blocks from him. In fact, I think there's one in this set of 5 of him doing a cut block there. Can he get a little bit better at this? Yeah. Is he ever going to be Le'Veon Bell in the pass protection department? Probably not. But the biggest thing is that when you get a guy on field, when you get a running back on the field, you want to know he's got the willingness at least to give you a good rep there, and at least get in the way of maybe a blitzing linebacker. And second is the challenge of him knowing which guy to get there. And I think he's so far in the tape that I've looked at with him, he's got the ability to do both, and I think he can get better at it. Now, will he? Like I said, is he ever going to be a Le'Veon Bell or some of your better pass protecting backs in the league? Probably not. But I mean, how many times we've seen backs just not be able to get it at all?
Right. You look at some guys, and again, I don't like to make this comparison because they're 2 different guys, but a Dre Archer, for example, a running back in name only, who never was able to pick that up. I mean, even in camp, you knew right away they wouldn't allow him to participate in backs on backers. And so I hope and I expect McFarland will be able to get that opportunity. Obviously, we won't get to see it in training camp this year, but it's still a requirement if you want to be able to really maximize your ceiling as a running back in this league.
And once again, we still got 3 games to go, and I think in total there's been, I don't know, 5, 9, I don't know, like 12 or so, I guess, pass protection opportunities for him, what I would call true pass protection opportunities, not just him chipping, going out of the backfield or something like that. And for the most part, he's represented himself well. Now, once again, I mean, you got such a small sample size that you're dealing with there, but on the flip side, that small sample size has got some good effort in it.
Let me ask you this question, and just a reminder to the chat, if you have any Steelers questions, feel free to ask in the chat below. But I know this is kind of tough to think back and compare and contrast, and trying to not think about what they did in the NFL either. But if you had to kind of rank the recent Steelers running backs drafted and how competent they were in pass pro coming out of college, whether we're talking James Conner, Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, Anthony McFarland, how would you kind of roughly rank them? Where would McFarland fit on that list?
Man, I'm trying to think back to James Conner and the tape. Obviously, I have a better recollection of Jalen Samuels because there just wasn't
much there. I think Samuels is 4th on that list.
I'm with you.
Partially because he just literally you couldn't find examples. His sophomore year, you have to go back to find examples of that.
Right. And Benny Snell, I don't think I did it. I don't think I had the time to do in fact, I know I didn't have all the Kentucky games from his from his final season to look at there. So that would have hindered me there. All I remember is that Snell
was pretty good.
Right. He had the willingness and the ability and seemed to know what he was looking for and what he needed to pick up. So if I was, I need to throw Conner out just because of the fact I just don't remember, Alex.
Okay.
I don't. It seemed like there was a willingness there. I just don't remember looking at a large selection, multi-game selection of that. So let me just rank the 3.
Okay.
with Snell, McFarland, and Samuels, and I think it would just go exactly in that order. It would go Snell, McFarland, and Samuels.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if I had to rank the fourth, and you're right, I don't remember Connor as clearly as the others. I would put Connor after Snell, so Snell, Connor, McFarland, Samuels, and that makes sense that Snell and Connor are at the top because they are bigger guys, and that certainly is going to at least help just having that bulk in pass protection. All right, guys. Again, here for till 8 o'clock. Please ask any questions for Dave and I. I know it's kind of the lull right now with camp about just less than a month away. I think the reporting day is July 28th. But if you have any questions about camp expectations, camp battles, anything we've written about, talked about, feel free to ask in the chat below. Captain Spartan 04, after the Patriots lost that third-round pick, I don't think I want to trade for Terrence Brooks that much anymore. That might rip us off. I don't want them to gain draft capital after losing it. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of chestnut checkers going on from the Patriots the last couple of days, and really since Belichick arrived. But they signed Cam Newton. They do lose the draft pick, but that was clearly a planned news dump from this team to try to give some cover, and they probably are going to get a comp pick for Cam Newton next year. So it's the Patriot way, I guess.
I wouldn't consider it a slam dunk on a high compensatory pick for Cam Newton. Anyway, because here's the thing here: if he performs well, might you very well, might you franchise tag him and try to trade him that way?
Either way, you're trading him. It's a good problem for the Patriots,
right? And here's the other thing that they still might need another quarterback next year. Either they're gonna would resign or tag a guy like Newton, or try to trade him away if he has any salt whatsoever after tagging him. What I'm getting at is if he performs like they hope that he can perform, are they just going to let him ride off into the sunset for, at best, a third-round compensatory draft pick? Or would they be wanting him to maybe continue on in that offense maybe for a couple years as they groom somebody? And on the flip side, if he stumbles and they have a horrific season for whatever reason, God, we can only hope for that.
Yeah. Right.
Then they're probably just going to let him ride off into the sunset for whatever he can get in free agency there. And yeah, even that might end up being maybe a fifth round compensatory pick for him or whatnot. So I don't view the move. I think the back half of the compensatory draft pick potential, that part of the move is I really don't think the Patriots are really thinking about that. It's more so about, can this guy compete for this, with Jarrett Stidham for the starting quarterback spot in 2020.
Yeah, I think either way, it was a good signing, a low-risk signing. I think Newton's going to be the starter. I think he'll play well. It'll be very interesting to see how Belichick and McDaniels coach a very different style of quarterback, but I think if anyone can make it work, it's certainly them. And Newton's a talented player, just health has been the issue. Mutated Genome, who will be the first off the bench to fill in for Watt or Bud if either one of them goes down? A very good question. I think the summer's going to determine that a lot, whether it's Adeyne or Skipper or Highsmith. I don't know. I think it's going to partially depend on how accelerated Highsmith's development is. The lack of an offseason certainly hurts him. So it could be Ola, could be Highsmith, maybe Skipper. I think that answer remains to be seen.
Well, Ola leads in the clubhouse as far as overall snaps played, I think, but that's not saying a whole hell of a lot, right?
And he has an ugly history of getting hurt late in preseasons that have stunted his growth and development.
Right. And, look, one guy you want to talk about, too bad we don't have not going to have a full training camp really or full preseason potentially to look at some of these guys because Lord knows Skipper showed a lot as a pass rusher, at least to get some of them furniture movers last year during the preseason. So it'd be interesting to see, what kind of progression he can make this summer. Maybe against a little bit better quality of tackle to go against there. Highsmith, just from the rawness, from the rawness aspect and from him just, not getting any offseason reps, it's going to be hard for him right out of the chute, I think, to be the first man off the bench. Now, do you hope that can be the case as the season progresses? Absolutely, you do. You would hope by week 8, week 9, right around in there, that's the guy coming in off the bench to give you the reps. But I think initially you have to give the slight edge to Adeyne until we see otherwise.
Yeah, I think that's a fair place to start. Hey, Pablo. Hey, Stangmang21. Thank you guys for being here. Again, having a James Conner book giveaway at 7:30. To 7:30, excuse me. First person to answer our trivia question correctly gets the book. Devin Stone, are they really serious about bringing in Martavis Bryant? I haven't even heard a report about that. Last I heard, I think you wrote about this last week, Bryant was applying for reinstatement, so that's going to happen first. And even if that does happen, and it probably will at some point, I don't see any scenario where Martavis Bryant becomes a Steeler again.
No, I think, Devin, what you're seeing is a lot of people speculating about me. Look, well, I wrote about it right when the news broke about him reportedly be reinstated. Now, unfortunately, in the day and age that we live in, a lot of people, will report it as the Steelers, are going to or need to look at it or need to consider bringing them back. None of that's news. It's all speculation. And as Alex and I have already talked, I think last week even on the live stream there, it'd be shocking if the Steelers showed any interest whatsoever in Martavis Bryant, and the same really goes for the Raiders at this point. Now, will a team maybe give him a shot if indeed he does get reinstated, and especially if that reinstatement happens within the next 4 weeks before camps get underway? I think it's a decent chance that we see that. But I mean, I would be just absolutely shocked if the Steelers did it.
Devin says it was reported by Arthur Moats. I guess that was maybe on his YouTube channel or something. I don't know if that's a report or speculation. I haven't heard those comments, but I have not heard anything in terms of actual reporting. And again, the dude's got to get reinstated first. So that's the first hurdle to clear. That's not going to happen today. It's not going to happen tomorrow, maybe by sometime in training camp. But I think there's a ways to go for Bryant before you start talking about what teams could sign him, because right now they really can't. ODG Dorkman, I think the teams that best manage the virus will have the best chance to be successful this season. What are some things the Steelers can do? I mean, I think it's about the same as everybody else in terms of sanitation and potential contact tracing and just trying to keep guys healthy and making sure that they're being smart, knowing what to do, and being informed about, the right things to do to try to keep themselves safe. So I don't know if there's there is no magical answer that the Steelers can have that no other team is going to be able to unlock or learn. It just honestly might just come down to luck of the draw, to be honest with you. Dave,
I tell you, well, I tell you, to hear the NFLPA constantly come out now, and really kind of chastise the players, a few times, saying, "Look, you guys don't need to be having these private workouts, together right now, especially if you want football, to happen." This season there. Then here you have Tom Brady, and his guys continuing to get together, and really, not just Brady and that group. Obviously, you go probably team by team. These guys just want to work together. They want to be prepared as best as they can, and that kind of stuff's going to happen with them. Working out there, whether the NFLPA suggests they not do it, they're going to take issues in their own hands and take their chances, unless it's mandatory not to.
Yeah, I think you said it well. And again, I don't have a great answer for you. I don't think anyone has a great answer right now. And we're all just kind of playing this thing by ear and just hoping the camp can start on schedule, that there is some sort of semblance of preseason, even if there's a reduction to it, just so guys have the opportunity and experience. So we'll see. Jesse Robles Jr. says I'm opposite. I think if more players you have get COVID-19 now, we'll have the competitive advantage mid-season. Yeah, I've heard that, Jesse. I don't buy into that. I just don't want anyone to get sick. I understand that you're not necessarily saying that, but I don't even want to entertain that idea. Plus, there are long-lasting effects. Even if you don't get seriously sick, we know what can happen with lung issues. I think Rudy Gobert said he still had some health effects and still feels of Von Miller and plays with underlying conditions like Cam Haywood, who has asthma, for example. What that could do could really put him at serious risk. So I get the point, but I don't even. It just kind of feels a little gross to even talk about that, and I don't even know if that's honestly going to be true.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing is how are they going to handle, and I think Matthew wrote about this over the weekend or into last week about there potentially being some sort of, I don't know what, COVID-19 list or something like that. I think you better make sure there's no competitive advantage here by, from teams maybe putting a guy on there. In other words, if a guy goes on that list, he ought to have to sit out an X amount of weeks or something like that. And I'm sure all teams at some point are going to have some players test positive. I mean, I just don't see how that doesn't happen
Hmm.
here. No matter how, look, you can clean those locker rooms as best as you can, and have as much social distancing inside these locker rooms as best as you can. But this is still a contact sport, and these guys are going to get close to each other, and inevitably there are going to be players around the league test positive for it. I mean, look, one good thing is we're going to, hockey should and basketball should start up before then. So
True.
we're probably going to get a good idea of what kind of maybe what the rate or some sort of percentage is on this thing, at least from watching that.
Yeah, I think the NBA had around 5%. I think 16 of 320 some odd players that tested positive for coronavirus whenever they returned to Orlando or arrived in Orlando for their kind of bubble bracket playoffs season. So maybe that's a number. Like I read about this a couple weeks ago, that I think that'll be the biggest challenge for the NFL, about just dealing with positive cases. They're unavoidable. Spikes, outbreaks. What happens if Ben tests positive the day before a game? Your whole O-line tests positive, has to be quarantined. Those are going to be difficult questions and problems that there just aren't any answers to right now. Let's see. Xander in Oregon, longtime Depot fan. Thank you, Xander. First time in chat. Thank you so much. Alex and Dave, what books or video resources do you recommend for a serious football fan looking to learn the detailed X's and O's of the sport? I always begin with Tim Layden's Blood, Sweat, and Chalk, which is not the most in depth, but it talks about some baseline concepts like cover two and the bang eight and the Cowboys offense of the 90s and Dick LeBeau's zone blitz defense and the origins of that kind of helps provide a good foundation. Anything by Chris Brown, Smart Football is always a good resource, and just a lot of stuff online. Free clinics, free. I think Coach's Choice on YouTube has a ton of good clinics. Some of them are a little bit older, but they're really good information, and you can just find for free just unlimited amount of information online.
Yeah, Pat Kerwin's, for real basic stuff, and to get into personnel groupings and just some of the kind of base kind of stuff. Pat Kerwin's Take Your Eye Off the Ball is a good starting point. I've got one coming. In fact, it better be here today or tomorrow. New book from Cameron Soren called The Pass Coverage Glossary. That's easily details or should easily detail a lot of the pass coverage looks and all like that. Now it's probably going to be a little bit more advanced for some listening to this, but that one comes highly rated already, and I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, there you go. But again, a lot of stuff online for free. I think Coach's Choice Clinic. I think you can look at old playbooks. No shortage of resources for sure available. Jonathan Hetritter. Hey guys, personally, what do you think would have to happen for Terrell Edmunds to lose his starting job this season, or for the Steelers to be motivated to find a better option at strong safety? To answer the first part of that question, to lose a job midseason, a lot would have to happen because there just simply aren't any good backup options unless someone like Marcus Allen dramatically changes the course of his career, or Antoine Brooks Jr. really impresses to a degree that I'm not expecting. So Edmunds would have to really probably struggle as a tackler. We're just not trusting him to play the run and be a reliable open field tackling type of guy. And he's not perfect right now, but it'd have to be much worse for him to probably get benched midseason.
Yeah, I think it'd have to really, really be bad for him to lose his job right now at this point. I mean, they're just not going to look. The big issue right now with him is just not making significant plays. There have been some minor, obviously, angle issues and all like that. But I mean, let's not. On the flip side, I mean, this guy isn't the worst strong safety the Steelers have had on the field before either.
Right.
But with all that said, this is, with him already having that playing experience now with Minkah Fitzpatrick, and with those guys probably going to be a little bit even more interchangeable, you would think, this year than we saw last year, with the defense as a whole having so many guys back. I mean, we should see some noticeable improvement by Edmunds kind of right out of the chute too, and a few plays. And look, when you look at some of these opposing offenses that the Steelers will play out of the chute, and how a lot of them will have younger faces on it, and with these guys not having with opposing offenses not having time to work together during the offseason, I think the Steelers defense in particular is going to have a nice advantage here if they can stay healthy here. So yeah, we should see Edmunds make a few more plays than obviously he has so far. And I just think it'd take a lot for him to see the
Hmm.
bench.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not sure he's going to make big plays because he just hasn't done it, and maybe that changes and progresses, and I hope it does. But he just got to show me. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me right now.
Look, he's got, if he wants that fifth year, I mean, look, I think it would take a lot. I mean, a lot for him to get in a position where the Steelers pick up his fifth year option. Uh, he obviously, a lot rides on, I think, this season for him.
Hmm.
So, he's right out of the chute. He's going to have to make himself seen on the field and make a few plays. Now, whether or not he can do it, I mean, obviously he hasn't done it yet.
Right.
So, but I mean, there should be some improvement.
Nick Uri. Why does Mason Rudolph get a pass for being a young quarterback, but the same isn't afforded to Duck? Touchdown to Deontay against Arizona. A couple long balls against Brown showed he has enough arm. Could be solid backup. I don't know about other people, but I think in the conversation of the quarterback play last year, we put in the context that they were young guys put in really difficult spots that predictably struggled the more they had to play and more the defenses got tape on them. So I kind of give them both the same pass in that context, not to absolve their issues entirely because they have a ton of things to work on. Both of them do, but I understand. I mean, Hodges being in that spot even more so than Rudolph, undrafted rookie, know what I was going to be in this role. Just the craziness of the season, the back and forth, the quarterback who let this team played. I put that in context in evaluating the season. I'm sure you do the same, Dave.
I'm not saying where Nick's getting that narrative to be honest with you. I mean,
Well, I
look,
mean,
both,
there are
both,
people that just think Duck's bad, and people jumped off that bandwagon and basically as quickly as they got on it.
look, both of them had their issues last year. Without a doubt. I think more than anything, look, the way things ended there, I think is the way you got to kind of look at it going into the offseason, and definitely the way I think Kevin Colbert and them are looking at it. Really, the last kind of positive that we saw was out of the quarterback position came out of Mason Rudolph against the Jets. Now, unfortunately, he obviously got hurt, didn't finish that game. We're talking about a small selection size right there. I just think as the season progressed, and they saw more, opposing defenses saw more Duck. We saw some of the things that we were kind of fearful of out of the shoot with him, and that's him not necessarily stepping up into the pocket, kind of drifting out there. And really, the arm strength was okay, not great. I mean, really, Mason's is about the same. About the same level with him as well too. Now, look, I mean, they're both of them. Both of them had a couple of bright spots last season, and both of them had, unfortunately, a lot more negative play than they did positive play there. But unequivocally, I think Mason Rudolph is the number two guy and should be the number two guy right now. And be honest with you, I think Paxton Lynch is going to give Devlin Hodges, a good run for that final spot there, for assuming they keep three, which they will probably.
And that's what Nick says in his follow-up. Mason is being handed the backup spot, and many think Paxton is the favorite to win three. I mean, that's a fair point on Rudolph. I don't think, though, that he's being given a pass, and I don't think that Lynch pushing Duck is a pass to, or not giving a pass to Duck, or at least putting in context the problems that and the successes that both those guys had last year. So I don't think having competition it means that they've given up on Hodges necessarily.
And look, I mean, if Mason, comes out this, in camp in the preseason for however long that is, and is awful, I mean, it's going to be hard for this team to go into the regular season if Mason's not, technically picking up where he left off at the Jets game. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Although, what do you do if he doesn't? If he just face plants?
you need to really take a hard look at it then, and see maybe what's out there on a veteran minimum at that point. Then
Mm-hmm.
now, granted, he's probably not going to have a lot of time to show us one way or the other. Obviously you'll have whatever camp time that you have, but I mean, what are we going to end up with preseason games, or
Yeah,
just two? And how many?
potentially none.
Yeah, and how many total snaps, might he
Mm-hmm.
might he end up playing if there's only two preseason games? So, look, they're going to have their eye on this, and just because Mason Rudolph is quote unquote the first guy up, I mean, I think he could still. I mean, an awful an awful showing this summer is an awful showing, and it's no way to go into the regular season should that happen with Mason. But I understand, and I think he deserves to be the next guy up right now, or the first guy
Mhm.
up as a number two, at least initially here.
And just to answer my last thought here, just to answer the question more directly and bluntly for Rudolph, I mean, the investment in him, that he's the third round pick. He's the guy that they viewed as the heir to Ben. They kind of really want and a little bit need to make him work more than they need Hodges, who has nothing invested in. So that is just the positive to being the high draft pick. And I'm not going to pretend like it's going to change things dramatically. Steelers, once you get in here, however you play is however you play, and that's what they base it off of. But in terms of the opportunity you're given, the reason why Rudolph is given that backup role to start is because of the investment and the hope that the Steelers were right when they drafted him a couple years ago. All right, Dave, it is 7:30, and it is time for our Steelers trivia question. In giving away our book, Fear is a Choice by James Conner. Let me pull up the question that you had sent. And the first person to answer this correctly will be the winner. No repeat winners. I think Cordell had won last week, but I'm sure he already has his book already. This is a two-part question, so you have to answer both answers correctly here. And this is the question is, what numbers did Hines Ward and Lamar Woodley each wear respectively in their first preseason games with the Steelers? A really cool question. I wasn't even sure the answer to these things. Again, I repeat it one more time. What numbers did Hines Ward and Lamar Woodley each wear respectively in their first preseason games with the Steelers? So first person to answer that both correctly, both Ward and Woodley, is the winner, and I think we already have our winner.
Oh, boy, these guys are on top of it, aren't they?
It is Tucker, just beats out Jonathan. Yeah, the correct answer is Ward with 15 and Woodley with 55. So Tucker Cable, you are our winner. Dave, how can he contact you to get the book?
Yeah, Tucker, send me an email to theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Tell me that you won the book, and give me a mailing address in there, and I'll get that fired out by the end of the week here to you as well. And look, both of those answers, if you follow me on Twitter, both of those were I had pictures and all in my Twitter feed over the course of the last week, so that it pays to kind of follow along with kind of my craziness on Twitter there. But boy, it's weird. It looks so wrong to see Hines Ward
Right.
in number 15 in that. What was the first I think it was against Buffalo. Was the first preseason game maybe that year there. But yeah, 15 for him. And for a little bit of a extra trivia here, a lot of you probably already know this, but the guy who wore 86 that preseason was a young wide receiver named Mike Adams, who had 86 when Hines Ward got to Pittsburgh, and obviously he didn't stick that year. And Hines Ward, after the preseason was over, got number 86.
I honestly had no recollection of Woodley wearing 55 early in his rookie year. So
Of who?
Of Woodley wearing 55.
Yeah, that one sort of got re-triggered in my head earlier today, and I went back just to double check on it, and sure enough, I was able to find, I think, 3 pictures of that, because I think they played the Saints that year in 2007 in a Hall of Fame game.
Okay.
That year, and Woodley had 55 on.
All right, there you go. Again, congrats, Tucker, for the book. Thank you to Harper Collins for giving us some copies to give away to you guys. Hopefully, we'll have more giveaways in the next couple of weeks. All right, back to the questions here. Captain Spartan 04. If Connor got hurt during the season, more than likely will, would y'all be opposed to bringing in Devonta Freeman? He seems like a better back to handle a workload than Snell McFarland. I'd rather let those young guys have the opportunity. I mean, you drafted those guys for a reason, to be that backup, to be the rotational guys, and unless something goes terribly wrong in the preseason where you just don't feel confident, I want to let those young guys work, not only for this year, but to figure out after this year. Assuming Connor's gone regardless of the type of year he has, do you want to make an investment in the position again via the draft, or would you feel good enough about Snell, McFarland, Samuels, potentially Kareth White, whoever the guys are, to roll with them? So I need to find out as much as I can about those guys this year to help shape my decision making for the future as well. So short answer, I would generally be opposed to the idea.
Yeah, I would as well too. And look, I think Freeman, by the time training camps get rolling, or at least soon thereafter, will find a home somewhere. And also, look, the Steelers just don't have a lot of cap money, and
Right.
it's hard to imagine Freeman, even though he's I guess out of work still right now is to getting him to sign for the NFL minimum right now. It might be close to it, but I just, that's not going to be in the Steelers' wheelhouse right now. And they've got enough backs in there, and obviously spent a draft pick again this year on Anthony McFarland Jr. And look, you got a lot of people in on that depth chart right now. So I'm with you, Alex. I don't think they would do anything. It would take a look. We saw what they did last year when we had Tony Brooks James and Trey Edmonds, for God's sakes, carrying the football in some games last season. So no, I don't think they would go outside should something happen to Connor.
And if Bruce Arians is to believe, Freeman wants too much money right now, so it wouldn't be in the cards for the Steelers, as you mentioned. Dallas Quinley, Duck is a turnover machine and is a fourth-string quarterback at best. Fair point. That's your opinion. He's got to cut down. He is the gunslinger mentality. That's what got him noticed. That's what kind of created the hype in training camp. And there's a reward to that, but there's the risk of that as well. And he certainly found that out the hard way late in the regular season last year. Jesse Hernandez, hey guys, you both are a great team. Thank you, Jesse. Question: where would you rank Minka amongst current safeties, and what do you predict his Madden rating to be? Thanks, guys. I always have trouble and struggle with the ranking questions because I just don't have the knowledge league wide to feel like I can appropriately rank them. He's up there, obviously. If you're looking at just free safety, not strong safeties too, I mean, probably top 3. I'm not sure who else I would put up there with him, but he's certainly right up there.
Yeah, he's definitely, I think, top 3. I mean, look, I thought Brian Baldinger, you want to talk about somebody doing some good work right now, or the last kind of, I guess, calendar year or two. Brian Baldinger really takes a lot of time, and it really shows that he does the job in the tape room and all like that. And obviously Minka was on the in fact, if any of you have missed this, you got to watch it. It's a great film room session Baldinger and Kurt Warner did with Minka Fitzpatrick there. Just instinctually, I think from just only the instinctual aspect and that alone, Minka is up there. I mean, this guy's just got such a good feel. I think his tape study is also good on that. That plays a part in there. But just overall, instinctually, you have to be good instinctually to be a good free safety in this league, I think. Now, obviously, having the kind of speed and the see to do and the ability to break and that kind of stuff most definitely helps. But you got to have, in today's NFL, you got to have a pretty good idea of where that ball is going to go so you can kind of anticipate that kind of stuff. And your great ones usually do. Boy, Ed Reed, man, he made a living, right? Out of being an instinctual in center field and kind of baiting quarterbacks into doing some certain things and reading their eyes and reading the routes. And the smarter a player can be and more instinctual player can be, the better they would be. So I think that if we learned anything last year about Minka, it is that. And so thus, yeah, I'd put him easily top 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. In terms of Madden rating, I'm going to guess 93 is my guess for a Madden rating. We'll see how close. They've been lowering.
I don't have a clue about that.
They've been lowering those numbers a little bit to give a greater range, so that maybe he's not in the high 90s, but I would say be low 90s. Steeler fan 1933 is to talk earlier about the NBA and coronavirus. NHL was about 15 of about 250, or around 6% tested positive. Yeah, if you extrapolate that out to the NFL with however many guys are there, 3,200, at least for camp. I mean, what's 5% of that? That is a fairly significant number, and a number I think it's going to continue to rise as these teams come together. Derek Wilson, do you think there's a possibility that we could see Sutton play traditional safety this year, and Edmonds move up into a box safety role? I think there's a chance for that in nickel, just because, and this is a question you've posed a lot, Dave, do they trust Vince Williams to play 700 or so snaps this year and basically become Mark Barron minus dime? Bush will be your every down linebacker in 2020. I think there's very little debate about that. But is Vince going to be your 3-4 and full-time nickel guy? And if he's not, how do you replace him? Could that mean spinning Edmonds down and putting maybe Sutton in some more obvious pass situations, even though he's not a traditional strong safety? I'm not sure, but that's where I think the opening for that question is, Derek.
Yeah, if a guy like UG3 can't make the jump, sooner rather than later, Williams would be the weak link, if he has to play that many snaps, I think personally. So I do like the prospects of them, using more dime personnel, plain and simple there. So it's hard for me to imagine a guy like Vince Williams playing 700 snaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And with the continuity and experience for this defense, it's going to let you be more flexible, have more, a variety of sub packages and different looks and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think there's a chance we see Edmonds move. I think both safeties are going to move around more this year than last year. I think Edmonds can play some more of that dimebacker type role. I think obviously we're going to get Minka moving around much more than him just being the post safety in center field to get him involved, so quarterbacks can't throw away from him all the time. So I think both safeties are going to be moving around more than they did last year. Let's see, David A. Chase Claypool is trash. All right, so not a big Claypool fan there from David. Pablo Martinez, something I've been thinking about. Both Juju and Connor have fumbled at the end of the game. Close game, either winning or coming back in 2 seasons in a row. Is that something I should be concerned about? I think we had a question about this before, at least in regards to, I think, Juju. Obviously, ball security is something you always teach. I mean, is there any particular correlation to it being late in games? I think it's hard to say, but those fumbles were costly. There's no arguing that, Pablo. K.R. Edmonds isn't going to be special, but he'll be solid. I think that's the track he's on right now, and underwhelming as a first-round pick if that turns out to be true, but certainly not the Jarvis Jones, Artie Burns bust level. Here's a good question from Tucker Cable. We have all seen the Minka forced fumble against the 49ers being played a lot recently with a segment on Game Pass. This play is a perfect example of what scares me most about Dan McCullers. That play just really shows his lack of ability to move laterally. He really struggles with the movement of zone plays. What do you guys think about this? Dave, I'll let you start this one.
I don't know. I guess he missed my couple of posts that I did on McCullers being in the middle of a 3-man front, and how the Steelers defense as a whole, both against the run and against the pass, just wasn't great from a successful play standpoint there. Now, when you go back kind of play by play and look at it, you can't just you just can't finger point and say it was all McCullers' fault overall. But it is a bit curious that when McCullers was on the field, that the defense had issues there. Now, that being said, I think it's a huge indication, if you will, what Mike Tomlin had said this past week about Tyson Alu being the first guy up or going to get the first snaps at nose tackle. You can't feel good if you're Dan McCullers and you hear that, McCullers is good going forward, and I think that's something that we've pointed out several times over the years. Look, he can push a center or a guard all the way back to the opposing goalpost sometimes, but he doesn't have a great ability to be able to find the football in the process and get unhinged sometimes from opposing offensive linemen. So, am I overly shocked that he's already kind of bubblish at this point of the offseason? No. But with that said, I mean, we've tried to count Dan out the last 2 off seasons, I think, and here he is still.
And I don't think it's any surprise that a roughly 250-pound nose tackle struggles to flow laterally against outside zone, for example. That's true of, I think, almost every 250-pound nose tackle. But it is a big concern overall, just flowing laterally. The structure of your defense, can you run stunt as much? Can you one gap as much? Can you defend, zone schemes as well as you could? Especially going from Hargrave, someone that was among the NFL's best at that, to McCullers, who'd be among the NFL's worst at that. I said this before last week. I'm still working on it, but I'll have a video that breaks down basically why I don't think McCullers can be a serious option on nose tackle, because he would dramatically change the scheme of your defense and what you can, and more importantly, what you can't do, because he can't stunt, he can't flow, he can't penetrate, and he's much more limited as that old school nose tackle, and I just don't see that working playing alongside guys like Haywood and Tuitt.
I tell you that it gives kind of credence of why they went out and kind of got a little bit undersized guy in like a Kayvon Walker, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were just looking for talent at that point. Walker had success. What do you have, like 4 or 5 sacks in the XFL? But that's kind of the blend. I mean, anytime they talk about nose tackle these days, they use the word flexibility. Position versatility. Hargrave could play, 0 tech, 1 tech, 3 tech. He even played some 4-eye more last year than past year. So McCullers is just too limited. And again, schematic. Can you, if he's out there for a pass play, can he be able to loop and contain? No, not really. Can he run stunt? No, he can't. So again, it's very limiting, and he just does not fit that mold of what's required from a nose tackle today.
And this kind of goes back to what, kind of you and I said during the pre-draft process, and why so many times we tended, to mock or tried to mock a more, 3-4-ish nose tackle-ish kind of guy to the Steelers a little bit earlier, because of knowing that there was probably going to be a need there. And it's going to be interesting to say, look, if Tyson Alu winds up being the guy, so be it. But, you would just wish that there was a little bit better option,
Yep. And my strong feeling is it will be Alu as your nose tackle. All right, go back to the chat here. Baster 29. I think Mason will be 2. Paxton will be 3. That's where I'm leaning right now. I think obviously Mason's got every opportunity to be the backup. It's a question of who's the number 3. I'm going to give the slight edge to Paxton over Duck. So again, I think that's a battle that is not set in stone. Tom Jeffries, gut feeling. Will week 1 go ahead as scheduled? I will say yes. Dave, what say you?
Yeah, you know me, I'm the internal optimist, so I'll say yes. But I mean, look, I'm sitting here watching it like the rest of everybody right now. So every bit of new information you try to take in and go from there. But look, I mean, the league released kind of NFL operations advised teams today that training camps are expected to begin as scheduled on July 28th, and everything's moving along as planned, but obviously that could change in a hurry. So we'll see. I'm optimistic, but I'm not foolish to believe that things could go south in a hurry here.
That's the honest truth. Okay, so we both agree week 1 will happen in terms of football will be played. Will there be any fans in attendance for week 1? Steelers traveling to New York to play the Giants.
It sure doesn't feel like it right now, does it?
I'm going to go no on that. I don't think there'll be fans. And I think there was even a rumor, I don't know how true it is, that the Giants sent a message to season ticket holders that they were not going to be allowed. I don't know if that's confirmed. I don't mean to put speculation out there. I should have done some more research into it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen for week 1. All right. I hope I'm wrong, though. I know we're all hoping we're wrong about that. Captain Spartan 04. If Chooks doesn't live up to expectations in training camp, would y'all be opposed to bringing back Kelvin Beachum as the 6th offensive lineman? He is still with the Jets, right? And I'm not sure what his contract is, Dave. I don't know if you can pull that up here briefly. But my first reaction to that is I probably would not be in favor of that. But what do you think, Dave?
Yeah, at this point in Kelvin's career, too, I would think he would have other options maybe out there, before the Steelers. And the Steelers won't be able to afford, anybody over really much more than a minimum there. So I just don't see something like that happening. And look, I think Kelvin Beachum's best years are now kind of behind him, if you will. They weren't overly. Look, I mean, he definitely beat the odds, right?
Oh, sure.
I mean,
great career.
This is a guy I can remember, Alex, charting him during the preseason at guard.
Did he play any center in Pittsburgh? He did at SMU, I think. Maybe he did like the Filer Hubbard and Camp center.
Yeah, I don't think there was many snaps there, but I can remember charting him in a couple of those early preseason games at guard and just being atrocious, man. And thinking, man,
really?
there's no way that guy makes a 53-man roster. I mean, so look, he's already beat the odds. Especially being able to give the reps that he's given at left tackle. Let's see, he is where is he with the Jets right now?
He's probably making decent money. I mean, the longest he's been in the league for.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now. What he's set to earn here. Hold on, just a minute here. Okay. Go ahead and take another question. Why you doing that?
All right. Well, Explorer World has a comment here, so it's a good time to bring this up. I am hopeful that UG3 will step up, and by the end of the season, Williams is replaced as his starter. I maybe, but I kind of doubt it, especially with UG3 missing all this crucial offseason time. But I am excited for UG3. I've talked him up several times here on this live stream. You find Beacham's numbers?
No, I haven't. I don't know if they're not updated in there. It's almost can't remember. He's still with them, isn't he?
I thought so. Maybe he's still a free agent. Either way, I don't think he's going to be in the mix. I mean, I think if Corfor were to lose that job, he would just be the backup, as disappointing as that would be. But it brings up the better question. If a Corfor cannot win the right tackle job this year, then what is his future in Pittsburgh? If he, has an opportunity now and he can't win it now, when's he ever going to win a starting job? So do you think about moving on from him? You start thinking about who's going to be your left tackle in 2021. Villanueva in last year of his deal. So I think it would be a big disappointment, obviously, if a core four can't win that right tackle job, and that really would question and muddy his future in Pittsburgh.
Let's see. It looks like he's a free agent right now.
Is he? Okay.
Kelvin Beachum, yeah. So
kind of bounced around.
Unless his price tag comes down, I just don't see him landing with the Steelers. I mean, they're going to give Chukwuma Okorafor and of course Zach Banner every chance to show what they have first.
I've asked this question a lot. I actually did a Twitter poll and ended in a literal tie of who the Steelers' Week 1 right tackle will be. I'll ask the question to you, Dave, and I won't hold you to it unless you're wrong about it. Filer, Banner, or Okorafor? Who's going to be the Week 1 right tackle?
Yeah, look, I think I've already kind of made this known. I think it's because I think it'll be a core four, and I think that's the way the Steelers want it to work out on top of it there. This is a guy that obviously was given the opportunity against the Broncos a couple years ago, and then last year against against the Rams, right? So, and there's not a lot really to hang your hat on there, but he was dealing with, I think, with some shoulder issues there. I think it's his job to lose, I think. And I think he will be your Week 1 guy at right tackle, assuming everything goes as planned with Matt Filer at left guard.
Yeah, I think this is the closest battle by far for the Steelers. I think it could really go either way. Would not be shocked if it's Banner or Okorafor. I'm going to go Okorafor, though. If you made me choose just because, last year when you had the opportunity of Banner or Okorafor at right tackle, they went Okorafor. We'll see. Not counting Zach Banner out by any means. And what he's done to climb the ladder in his career, he could certainly win this job. Made me choose, though. Right now, I'm going to go Okorafor.
Yeah, I would as well.
But I think it's going to come down to how they play in camp. And if Banner's better, then he's going to be the guy. And I think that's fine by me. Let's see. ODG Dorkman, when will we see you both with webcams? Maybe for me at some point. There's some videos of mine way back when you can see my ugly face. I got to get a better setup and clean up my room or a little office space a little bit. And Dave, I think never is going to be the answer for you.
I got a face for radio.
You had was that photo from you on Twitter from the 80s? That was really you?
Yeah.
Who was that buddy of yours? Just a friend?
Just old running buddy. Yeah.
That was a very Wayne's World looking photo you had there.
Yeah. A lot of long hair buddies. Yep.
All right, let me try to find a couple more questions here. Last few minutes of the live stream. I know Explore Your World has a lot of comments on McCullers. I think McCullers is resigned to the fact he plays special teams and short yardage at the nose tackle. That I think is probably the best role for him right now. Aaron Young, over under Ebron gets more targets than Vance by year's end. That's a good question. That's close. I think they're going to be pretty similar. I'm going to say it's not really an over-under. I think it's just Ebron or McDonald's going to get more targets, but I'll say Ebron gets a couple more targets than Vance.
It still won't be what people are thinking that might happen unless one of the two gets injured and misses considerable time. I really think people are kind of overestimating what Ebron's going to bring target-wise.
What do you think the numbers are? Well, first of all, who would you go with? You going to go with McDonald then, or even if you both think they're kind of low?
I think they're going to be with it, assuming both stay healthy. I know that's tough to do right now.
Just assume they each play like same number of games.
I think they're within about 8 or 9 targets of each other, really, to be honest with you. I would be surprised if either one of them cracks the 45 number in targets.
That's the ceiling, you think, for both guys?
Yeah.
Individually? Okay. Yeah, I can, and it's targets. Yeah, I can see that. I think it'll be very close. And it may just come down to who's more durable. Race to the bottom there. Captain Spartan 04, what college football team would you most compare to the Steelers? I would say we're most like Florida State. Few coaches over the past 40 years, constantly at the top, and most interactive fans. When you first said that, the first thing that came to mind for me, and that's partly visually aided, is Iowa. And because they've had good stability, they're kind of more old school. I mean, the Steelers, they're a passing team like most of the league now, but you kind of have that old school mentality. Same coach. Obviously, the jerseys look extremely similar. So Iowa was the first one that came to mind. How about you, Dave?
They might look a lot more like Maryland this year offensively.
Yeah, Maryland's. That's a good one. You know what? You win. They're just basically Maryland.
I tell you, if you get some of that Matt Canada influence that we're expecting to get, and get kind of some of that motion in and all like that. Did you see that series of plays that I put up from last season there on that on the two running back look and running the wheel out of that?
Yeah, that's a lie. I like to see that.
They ran that back-to-back plays.
Oh, really? That's a big middle finger to a defense.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, imagine, that's the kind of stuff that I'd like to see if you're going to have two backs on the field.
What college has the most Steelers? Or how would I want to phrase this question? What college is most represented on the Steelers roster? Is it Ohio State? Is it Maryland? Is it LSU? I wonder what the answer to that would be. I don't know off the top of my head.
What on the current roster?
Yeah. Who has what college has the most representation on the Steelers roster? I'd be curious to know the answer there.
Probably a lot of Big Ten in there to start.
Yeah, Michigan. Well, it's probably Michigan. Now that you mentioned Big Ten, it's probably Michigan. Good question though, Cat Spartan. Below West Side Hawaii, do you guys think Tuitt puts it all together this year, stays healthy, and ascend to the Pro Bowl and first team All Pro? I mean, health is, who can answer that? But I think obviously the talent is immense. He, to me, was the MVP on a very good defense before getting hurt last year. I can't predict health and durability. A lot of his injuries have been freak and acute, to steal the Colbert term. They're not, an arthritic knee or something that's recurring and you're always worried about. So if he's healthy, I mean, I think the answer to those questions is certainly possibly yes to both of those. I think Tuitt is a tremendously talented player who's just run into some really terrible injury luck.
Yeah, you got 5 Michigan guys right now: Bush, Amari, Darbo, Zach Gentry, Cannell, and Chris Wormley, right?
Yeah, is that the most? You're eyeballing it?
I think it is. Maryland's got 4 or 5. No, Maryland's got 5 too. You got. Did you know Kayvon Walker went to Maryland?
No, I didn't. All right, there's your 5th.
Huh.
And then, you got the McFarland and Brooks and Gray and
I forgot about Walker going to Maryland there. McFarland, Gray, Edmonds, Trey Edmonds went to Maryland too.
Oh right, didn't he transfer at some point? Didn't he go? He bounced around colleges. Yeah, I think he ended it with Maryland.
Right.
Didn't he start somewhere else?
Didn't he start at Tech or no?
Yeah, he was at Virginia Tech or ended at one of the two. He moved around.
Right.
Okay.
So we got couple Maryland, 5 Maryland, 5 Michigan there.
All right, there you go. And then with Tuitt, I mean, just what are your expectations for Tuitt this year, Dave?
Man, in that heading into that, or really a quarter into that 6th game against the Chargers, he was on fire. He really was. Obviously the injury concerns with him, but he obviously is supposedly over that torn. What did he have? Pec last year.
Yep.
I mean, if he can stay healthy, I mean, there's no reason to think that he can't pick up where he left off at. So that that's the big thing. I mean, as he's kind of like the I guess sort of the defensive version of James Conner. You just need him to stay healthy. If he stays healthy and you can kind of limit him to, let's say, I don't know, 750 snaps or so. I mean, we're talking about a potential Pro Bowler here. I think.
I agree. Richard Hudspeth. Alex, could you see Washington being traded, especially if Claypool picks things up? No, because by the time even Claypool probably makes an impact, the trade deadline's likely passed. You want to hoard your receiver talent. Claypool, I wouldn't even say he's necessarily a Z receiver. He's kind of going to float around a bit. Maybe longer term, but not anytime soon. And I'm excited for Washington year 3. I think he had a really underrated sophomore year. I think there was big growth and improvement there in a difficult situation with quarterback play and the offense and the context you guys know. And so I want to see more of James Washington in 2020.
Yeah, I don't see them trading any of those guys. Yeah. No.
AJC Derwin Gray said he was injured last season. Do you know what his injuries was? I know he made that comment about that, and he said he was happy the team kept him on the practice squad and kind of let him just grow and get a little healthier there. I don't recall if he said what the injury was. I can maybe go back through camp notes and see if I could pick something up. Do you have any recollection, Dave?
Not off the top of my head, I don't.
Yeah, and it was a tough year for Gray being moved to guard after playing left tackle at Maryland as a transition there. People think it's just you move a guy inside. Oh, what's the difference? There's a big difference with footwork and hand placement and eyes and preparing for different pass rushers and stunts and just working in less space in the interior guard compared to tackle. So we'll see. I mean, Gray has a chance to try to get maybe a ninth potential spot, but he's got to show a lot because last year was very quiet for him in preseason and training camp. Ernest Grice, would you take a chance with Martavis Bryant? I assume this is not saying will the Steelers do it, but would you and I, Dave, personally do it? Would I do it? I know you're probably going to be open to it for the minimum. I know that's your kind of deal, and I understand that. Would I do it if I was Pittsburgh? Probably not. I'm happy with the receivers I have right now. I want to see what those young guys can do.
Yeah, and I've said in the past, look, even Alex Kozora would be worth taking a flyer on.
Sign me up
for the minimum there. Hey, here's the thing though: do you want all the stuff that potentially is going to come with it?
Right.
You know,
well, that's the question. Sure.
I mean, it's not so much about the money at this point; it's the trade-off versus the talent versus what the possible distraction and all like that he might. So, look, I'm disappointed he didn't work out with the Steelers. That there was at one point not too terribly too long ago that I thought maybe this guy could become, the best deep receiver in the league maybe since Randy Moss.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously brought that upon himself, and it's unfortunate we didn't get to kind of see that stuff. But I really just think the Steelers have moved on from kind of the attitude and usually generally those Tigers don't change their stripes either,
Right.
So at this point, I mean, even for the minimum, I say thanks but no thanks.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let me pull up the questions here. Last couple. Levi 35. Do you guys feel like we need a better backup quarterback, cornerback, and wide receiver to win the Super Bowl? No, not necessarily. I think Super Bowl teams aren't necessarily defined by who their backup cornerbacks are. I understand the question about depth and injuries. I think it's a big year for Rudolph. I think it's sink or swim for him. I like the receivers, I like these young guys trying to compete. And cornerback, same thing. Justin Lane, I was not crazy about that draft pick, but let's see how he does in the summer, and we'll kind of evaluate from there.
You could go NFL roster by NFL roster and pick out 3-4 depth holes, on each. You just can't fill them all. Now would it be nice to see the Steelers? I tell you, my biggest concern, really, quite honestly, is just who's going to be the next guy off the bench at safety. That's kind of really where I sit right now as my biggest concern. You can bitch and moan all you want about the quarterback position, and a lot of people have a whole off season. It's not going to change. So why even waste the breath on? Oh, the Steelers should have signed Cameron Newton. They should have signed Jameis Winston. They should sign Kaepernick. Why waste your breath on that? I think you're better off maybe wasting your breath on maybe, who potentially maybe the Steelers will trade for maybe as a safety right at the start of the season for, a very low salary 27, 28-year-old backup safety that can play some special teams that you give up maybe a 6th-round pick for. That's where the focus should be at, not really on the quarterback position, in my opinion. Look, injuries happen, and they've got you got a guy like Cameron Sutton, probably going to be the first guy off the bench, got some experience there. Justin Lane, obviously, now that his red shirt year's over with there, you would expect some sort of improvement. Hopefully we don't have to ever see him play a defensive snap, to be quite honest with you there. But I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over that.
Last 3 questions. Captain Spartan 04. When watching the college running backs, Kyle and the Hills, most seems like a Steeler. I watched a Michigan State game in 2011 on ESPN. It seemed like Bell was 3rd string. Are you sure we look for heavy production in backs? Yeah, I think if you just look at the totality of all the running backs they drafted recently, whether you're talking Snell, Samuels, Connor, Bell included, I mean, Bell's final 2 years at Michigan State, he had 25 total rushing touchdowns, rushed for over almost 1,800 yards his last year at Michigan State. So it's not necessarily that you were necessarily taking the Snell path of being the guy immediately from day one, but at some point in your career you had really excellent production. I think throughout Bell's career, he showed that again with especially his last 2 years and leaving school a year early. So I think if you look at the numbers across the board, that they've said that. I base it off of what Randy Fichtner said. I think about Samuels his rookie year, saying that we saw he had touchdowns in college, he had production in college, so we believed he could do it in the NFL, and that's kind of the part of the requirement I think they look for. If you can't do it in college, then you probably can't do it in the NFL. That seems to be their approach. Levi 35, do you believe Benny Snell can be a 3-down back in the NFL? I think there's some potential for that. Will it actually happen? Maybe more unlikely to happen than not. But yeah, I think that at a baseline level, I think he's a better receiver than people give him credit for. I think he's a better blocker than where most guys are at in his career. And as a runner, there's a question about the upside and big playability, but I think Tomlin kind of likes that style. So will it happen? Maybe, maybe not. But I think in a best case scenario, he could be.
I think he could be. I don't think we'll see it,
Right.
but I think he could. But look, I mean, you know how I feel about running backs. Such a fungible position, in my opinion. There, I think sometimes you're better off trying to piece and part the thing together as best as you can. There, I mean, how many backs year in year out for at least for 2 or 3 years in a row can be that guy and play 700 to 1,000 snaps? Not
Mm-hmm.
many. You
Yeah,
know.
so that number has decreased, certainly, in the last 5 to 10 years. Last question, Richard Hudspeth. When is it realistic to start looking for Ben's heir? Well, that was the intention with Rudolph, and if he doesn't look any better this year and you feel like you aren't confident he can still be that heir, then you could be looking as soon as a 2021 draft. Will it happen? Who knows? So many variables at play, but you probably need to just start the process over again and look for quarterbacks as early as 2021.
I think regardless of what happens this year, I will be shocked if they spend a first round pick on a quarterback in 2021.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll see. And then Luke, that kind of just ties into what you're saying about how does Rudolph do this year, and that's kind of what it comes down to. So, all right, guys, that's going to wrap up the stream. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Dave and I will be back next Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you guys very much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace and love, everybody.